Hello and welcome back to the Kalopsia podcast. I'm your host Sydney, and I'm so thankful that you guys came and clicked on this week's episode where we discuss topics big and small that might help us flip our mindset into being the best us. Today I want to delve into kind of a continuation of last week's episode because I like to come on here with honesty, and when I published last week's episode, I was thinking to myself, you know what? I don't know if I completely agree with everything I said in that episode. Now, to recap really quickly, in last week's episode, we discussed, talking about taking action, stopping of the manifestation or halting our continuous accrual of inspiration and stepping more so into action. And when I was thinking about that, I had been referencing to my vision board that I had recently made, and how it struck me when I was making my vision board that I had not spent a lot of time moving into action and moving into the actual production of things I wanted to do on there, such as making YouTube videos. And a lot of the time I was watching YouTube videos rather than making them. And I was spending a lot of time in the consumption side of it rather than the creation side of it. And to a certain extent, I do believe that it is really important to be mindful of your consumption and creation scale and which side you're leaning more towards, especially if you want to be a creative and especially if you like to seek inspiration from, online media as well, which I think is totally fine and normal. It's a resource. Now, where I kind of had a disconnect was where I had been discussing, it's great, it's all fun and games to plan and rehash and accrue, vision board pictures and inspiration. Then that's not the most important part. You need to build that momentum and step into action. Now, I have been reading this book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I had been wanting to read this book for so long. I've been listening to the audiobook, if I'm being honest. I'm listening to the audiobook, and it's a lot of tools leaning on your frame of mind and how you can use that to create things that aren't in your physical reality. And this is something that I have taken upon myself. Like, this is something that I use on a daily basis. I spend a lot of my time in imaginary states and thinking, if I were this person, what would I do? Where would I be? How would I take in this information? How would I act? These are all things that I often like to think about when I'm thinking about crafting the new me, trying to manifest the new me and be the highest frequency version of myself. I lost that a little bit when I was talking about last week's episode based on kind of a single realization that I had about myself. So I want to come back and be honest about that. I don't completely agree with that narrative, with that episode. And so I'm coming back and we're going to run it back, and let's talk more about this mindset and how you can use that to create things that you don't see around yourself, that you can't immediately take action upon, and how that shouldn't stop you. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I'm not the most beautiful person on the universe, and I'm not going to make any bold claims and say that I am a Victoria's Secret supermodel, right? But I think that your mindset is one of the things that can ensure everlasting beauty, everlasting magnetism, and just being the hottest, most magnetic version of yourself. And the biggest thing for me that has led me to this point where I feel the most beautiful version of myself day in and day out, whether I'm wearing makeup, not wearing makeup, whether I'm wearing a sweat set or I'm dressed to the nines, I always feel like I am, a hottie toddy. I've never said that before. But the biggest thing for me in reaching that state has been my mindset. And I am bringing this up because it goes hand in hand with creating the best version of yourself, with manifesting things for yourself. Because when I think back to my physical appearance and how drastically that changed, the only thing I can point that change towards is the affirmations, is the love I poured into myself, is the mindset I poured into myself, and nothing else. So when I was about 19, I remember looking in the mirror, or maybe 20, I looked in the mirror and I did not recognize myself. I swear I woke up with a new face. This is pre-subliminals, pre-anything that I knew about when it comes to, subliminals are basically videos that you can listen to that can tell your subconscious frequencies and affirmations at a frequency that is undetectable to our ears. So it will be a sound of the ocean, but then there's affirmations in the background interlaced, and you can fall asleep to it. And a lot of people have reported this transforming their face, transforming their jaw, transforming their appearance, but that's not the case for me. I woke up one day, I looked in the mirror and I was like, that's my face? That's mine? What do you mean? How did this happen? How do we get here? Wait, I'm beautiful. Like this is crazy. Like, wait, I'm kind of stunning and beautiful and amazing. And at this point, I hadn't changed anything about my lifestyle. I hadn't changed anything about my eating, and I ate my same 3 meals. I think at that point I was just eating avocado toast with eggs, tomato pasta with Parmesan Reggiano, and my smoothie bowl, and maybe a few other things in the mix there, but those were my 3 core meals that I still eat to this day that I had eaten before that. Nothing had changed. And the only thing that had changed was my circumstances. And you can think about this. I'm about to explain it to you. You would have thought that I would have become the ugliest version of myself, that I was in this horrible state and everything was falling apart. So to recap, at this point, I'm in college. It's my sophomore year of college. I'm in school. At one point, my mother calls me and she tells me basically this catastrophe had happened. We have lost our income. There is no influx or incoming of money, right? There's no monetary resource coming in. And so I have to withdraw from school, right? I have to withdraw from school. I'm not going to be able to go to school. I'm thinking, what do you mean? How am I going to get my degree? How am I going to maintain my friendships? Am I going to, what do you do? Like, what do you do when somebody tells you, oh, you have to drop out of school because we can't pay for it anymore? You're going to catastrophize. You'll be like, there's no way. Everything I knew to be true. I'm a Virgo. I like to plan. My plan was to go through 4 years of schooling and then graduate, and then I don't know what, but that was the only thing that I had planned for myself. And so at this point, I'm in my co-op because my school, Northeastern, basically the way that the semesters flow is that you have school, and then 6 months of a co-op job, and then you go back to school, then you do school again, and then you do another co-op. You can do 2 to 3 co-ops. I only did 1 due to this circumstance change. And I ended up being able to go back to school and I was able to graduate on time, but I digress. I was faced with the realization that nothing I knew to be true was true, and that I was now at this co-op job. I was working 7 days a week. I was overworked, exhausted, and anchorless. And I look in the mirror and I'm like, wait, she's stunning. And I want to explain to you what I was doing inside of myself during this time. So when the world crashed and fell apart is when I learned true stoicism and true emotional regulation. When I was growing up and I had a catastrophe happen, or when something stressful happened, I could turn to my friends. I would turn to YouTube at my favorite comfort YouTubers, and I would lean on those in order to, find my sanity and find my inner peace. And when it came to my freshman year of college, I think that's around the time when I started journaling. And I started talking about, it first began as word vomiting and saying, oh my God, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. I am in the worst period of my life. Like, how can this be happening? It was total word vomit and negativity spiral. Now, around this time, I had so much more free time on my hands because I'm thinking, oh, okay, so now I don't have to go to school. The co-op job had ended. I am now just kind of vibing out, working at this coffee shop, or I don't know exactly what the circumstances were, but I had a lot of more free time on my hands. And then I was like, you know what? I feel really understimulated mentally. So let me flip this whole journaling, habit, and let's try to create something out of this. And so with that, I decided to create this podcast. And there was no recognition or accolades or anything of that sort until literally this year, 2025. I went forward with this habit for 3 years without anything in my external reality changing. But what it was doing was pouring into my self-conception of myself. And that is where this self-conception, that accrual of inspiration and the focusing on your mental state over your physical reality is going to lay the groundwork for that physical reality to catch up. Now, I've been jumping around a lot and I want to apologize. A lot of the time, we believe that any kind of external change or external transformation has to come from our physical actions. We believe that we have to act correctly. We have to ask the right questions. We have to enter the right rooms. We have to have enough money. We need to look pretty enough. We need to create something physically in order to change our physical reality. Now, what we ignore about this process of the creation in our physical reality is the frequency that is associated with that physical thing. Now, I'm positive this isn't the first time you've heard this before, but we are made of atoms and we are made of electrons and electricity and frequencies, and those are what allow us to draw things into our lives. When it came to the job that I currently have, I was just thinking to myself, I'm going to get this job, I'm going to get this job, this is what the job I'm going to have, I'm going to wake up in the morning at this time, and then I'm going to take this bus, I'm going to get this way, and then I am going to come home, and this is going to be my habit, I'm going to do this. I broke it down into so much detail with no physical, proof that this was going to be happening. I was barely even searching and applying for jobs. I think I would check maybe once a week and try to find something online. And I manifested my exact job and the exact circumstances that I really needed them to be in. And it worked. It was perfect. I was like, thank you. The leading emotion, gratitude. And that is how I found my current position, my current job. Now, this is something that we can apply to so many different things. I have manifested friendships. I have manifested trips. I have manifested opportunities, and it doesn't stop there. Now, what we need to focus on, whether it is to manifest a certain circumstance, whether it is to feel our hottest and freshest selves, is to change our inner frequency, because your physical reality is just another frequency that is happy to be magnetized towards something. It is happy to be drawn towards something, but you need to carry yourself at the same frequency for that thing to come to you. If you are operating from a mindset of, I am, the ugliest person in the world, I am so, fruitless, passionless, and whatever, all this negative stuff that you're telling yourself, your physical reality, the physical you that is beautiful, that is stunning, that is talented, that is passionate, that is driven and ambitious, they're going to say, that's not me. Like, whatever those thoughts are, that's not me. So I'm not going to show up for that. Like, why would I come and show up and show you the most beautiful version of yourself when this is all the poison that you are saying to yourself? The same thing is true when it's saying, okay, I really want to be more wealthy and attract more wealth into my life, but constantly you're thinking to yourself, I'm broke, I have no money, I'm never going to be able to catch up, I have all this debt, I'm literally like, and solely relying on the reality that is immediately visually available to you. You're only going to perpetrate that, you're only going to fuel that, and it is really cuckoo to think about it, but you have to be so delusional that the physical reality that you see in front of you is only option A. There's option A, and think of it as there are infinite options for your life to come out as, and this is just option A. This is not your reality, right? This is just the current reflection of things that you could have. Now, I want to talk about something else that will really help you lean into the state of creation from within And think about when you feel you're most inspired, you're most driven, you're most ambitious, you're most capable. That's when you're feeling joyful, gratitude, happy, inspired. There is such a thing as emotional comorbidity, right? When I think about disease, I think, not disease, but I'm thinking about in class when you think of depression and anxiety and how those can be comorbid. And when one thing comes up, another thing might also pop up because they bleed into one another. The same thing is true when it comes to ambition, inspiration, joy, excitement, all of these positive emotions. They bleed and fuel one another. And so when we are thinking about changing our reality, changing our mindset, feeling more of these positive emotions, what we need to break into is that positive emotional momentum. And how do you do that? By getting addicted to being happy. So I've been listening to this book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, like I mentioned earlier. And in it, he brought up something that I had completely forgotten about, which is that we are addicted to our emotions. We can easily become addicted to our emotions. And I spoke a little bit about this in an episode about a year ago about self-sabotage and how easily that loop can continue to repeat itself because we get addicted to misery, just like we get addicted to sadness, just like we can get addicted to happiness and excitement. And I think that I am addicted to being happy. I'm addicted to gratitude. I'm addicted to joy. And it hit me the other day that I never have bad days. I can have really bad circumstances, really bad instances that happen throughout my day. I can get really bad news. Me failing my driver's license test, that was a really, really bad instance. I was so devastated, and I gaslit myself in a way that I wasn't even conscious of. This is what happens when you get really addicted to happiness, is that it ends up requiring no effort, and your body, your brain will just find ways to flip it around and think about it positively. And what did I do? I hopped on TikTok and I said, I need to find people who feel this too, who have felt this pain. And I looked up failing your driver's license. And then it was tons of people. I failed six times. Like, I think it was Tate McRae failed her driver's test 6 times before she passed. And I was like, you know what? Tate McRae's an icon, and icons fail. So literally, that was how gaslighting myself, like that's how dramatic and delusional I was. I was like, no, this is actually fantastic because I've entered the baddie club. I've entered the club where we all fail, but we'll get there eventually. But baddies don't drive. Like, I was literally like, it's absolutely fine. I was devastated. I wasted so much money. But I was like, you know what? I'm a baddie. This is I'm certifiable baddie now. And so I digress. You need to remember that you are capable of being addicted to your emotions. And so what emotions are you addicted to? Now, the number one way I would say you can make this information available to you and realize which side of the spectrum you fall on is by journaling. When I journal, I confront the deepest, darkest versions of myself. And this is not rocket science. You're writing, stream of consciousness, things are going to pop up. You're going to be like, oh, okay, that's how I felt about that. Oh, that's how I felt about that. And I think that that's a great tool. Now, I am aware that there is a phenomenon that people lie in their journals. And we are a society full of super creative people, and so we're capable of lying. We're capable of creating stories that might not really exist and lying to ourselves. I lie to myself a lot of the time as well in my journal. Sometimes I will think that something is fine, and like, this is what happened to me recently. To tell you a little anecdote, I had a conversation with this guy, and then I gaslit myself into thinking that he was asking the right questions. I was like, oh yeah, like, it's good for him to ask this. This is good. Like, this is good information. Like, curiosity is important. And then I spoke to my friend about it, and I was like, she was just letting me talk to myself. I was like, oh, actually, I'm not okay with that at all. Like, that was actually really weird that you asked these questions, and this is a really weird flow of questions to ask, and this is actually really intrusive. So you can lie to yourself in your journal. So that's one option. If you are not a self-liar and you're really good at being really honest with yourself in your journals, I really recommend that in order to confront how your emotions lie at baseline. Now, another option is to have little daily check-ins throughout the day. Maybe when you wake up, think to yourself, how do I feel right now? Not, am I tired? Am I in pain? Am I feeling this? Am I feeling that? No. How do I feel? Am I excited for today? Am I happy for today? Am I looking forward to something for the day? Or am I already in a miserable level thinking, another day? How horrible is this? This is just horrible. Think to yourself, not having to do anything yet. Just for a few days, just think throughout the day, how do I feel right now? Just little daily check-ins at night when you're going to bed. How's today? How did I feel? How do I feel right now? At lunch, so you're sitting down, you're like, okay, how do I feel right now? Just check-ins. Let's just collect data for now. We're not going to put anything into action. Let's just collect data. Now, once you figure out where your baseline is, if it's not in excitement, happiness, joy, and not saying you have to continue to be happy, just where's your baseline? Where do you try to come back to at the end of the day? I want to emphasize that I'm not saying that it is possible or even advisable to remain in one of these positive states for eternity and just constantly be happy. It's not possible. But just what is your baseline? Where do you lean towards and come back towards and gravitate towards? If your baseline is a negative one, that's great. Number one, you're now aware. You know what your baseline is. You know what you're currently addicted to. Now, what Dr. Joe Dispenza tells us is that this is malleable. This is changeable. You are capable of changing that. You are capable of flipping that. Your emotions are not who you are. They are a reflection of how you align with what you are surrounded by. So if I am at work and I feel stressed, that doesn't mean I am a stressed person and stress is my baseline. It means that the environment that I am in causes me stress. And so that might tell me, okay, this job might not be aligned with the best version of you, or a view that you feel calm and safe and relaxed in. That's just they're not going to align. So it's a marker. It's telling me something. When you figure out that your baseline is misery or sadness, notice that, acknowledge that. Okay, this is now my baseline. Now we can move into the changing it and the discovering a new baseline to lean towards. And how do we do that? We train our brain. Everything about our behavior can be changed, I believe. And that's kind of what my studies and my career is teaching me, is that our behavior is a product of our environment. It's a product of the consequences that the behavior will provide us with. And the reality is that both joy and suffering can be reinforced and thus can be manipulated, that it will continue in the future. Now, the self-sabotaging has shown us that pain and suffering can feel good, especially when that is where you feel comfortable, that is where you feel safe. You are safe within the emotion of sadness and depression and suffering. And that is where you feel comfortable. That is your baseline. That's going to be reinforcing. And you are going to go into your day looking for clues, or the clues will be the most obvious to you that will fuel that particular narrative. You're going to go out into the day, you wake up and you're like, another bad day. Then you're going to wake up and you're going to run out of your milk. You're like, yeah, told you it was a bad day. I knew it was a bad day. Then you're going to get, maybe you're going to not miss your train, but then it's going to be raining. You're like, yeah, another bad day, horrible day. And you're just going to keep finding more clues throughout the day that are going to fuel that narrative, that are going to help that baseline be as strong as it can be. Now, conversely, if you are on this content side and you are, you wake up feeling sparkly and dazzly and you're like, you know what, another good day. I'm excited for my coffee. You wake up, you run out of milk. You're like, damn, oh wait, I kind of wanted to try this tea. I wouldn't have thought of that if I didn't run out of milk. Let me try this tea. That'll be fun. Maybe I'll have that be a part of my rotation. Then you don't miss your train. You're like, ka-ching, I'm so excited. I didn't miss my train. What a beautiful day. That's like, oh, it's raining. It's like, what a great opportunity to call an Uber. I never call an Uber, but now I have a perfect opportunity to call one, and it's okay because I didn't bring my umbrella, so I don't have to feel bad about it. It's all about your baseline. That's going to shape the way that you feel about the life around you. And coming back to being your hottest, bestest self, and coming back to manifesting these external realities that aren't there yet, those are attracted to a higher frequency, to a higher vibration. They are attracted to a content, happy, inspired, excited, ambitious, passionate version of yourself. And so you cannot create, no matter how much action you take, a high vibrational external reality if you are not willing to put in the work and shift your internal reality into a higher vibrational one. Now, Dr. Joe Dispenza suggests this strategy. When you find yourself in these spirals of negativity and you're thinking, what a horrible day. This is just perfect. I've just missed the train. I got the train, but it's raining. I got out of milk. Oh, I lost so much money. The other day I had to pay for a $50 Uber. I was annoyed, I'll be honest. And I'm just like, God, it's horrible. You can think to yourself, okay, change. Flip it around. I know we're all thinking, it's okay. I digress. We are flipping it. $50 Uber, fine. Money comes back. That's totally fine. I'm out of milk. Oh gosh, cursed be thy, wait, that's horrible. I don't even know. Is that from the Bible? I literally don't even know what came out of me. But you're going into the spiral of negativity. You're like, you know what? Change. The word change. And it literally halts that spiral. And it's like, okay, wait, this is the old me. This is where the divide begins. That's where my thoughts were going. Change. Okay, what would I say if I were this higher vibrational version of me? What would she say? I'm not saying that I'm her and I'm gaslighting myself into, oh, that's me. No, I'm thinking, okay, I am external to both streams of thought, but it's almost like there are two flowers in front of me. One is blue and one is yellow, and blue is the sad one and yellow is the happy one. Which flower do I want to pick? Okay, I usually go with the blue. This is where I usually walk into this field and I get to pick from one of these flowers. Oh, change. Let me just take a right instead of a left this time. Let me pick a yellow one. Let's see where this takes me. And the more that you do it, the repetition of having that conscious change of spiral of thought, the more acclimated and habituated to that frame of mind you will become. And that's how we train our minds. That's how we flip our mindset. And that's how we gain a higher vibrational frame of mind. Now, I don't know if you guys watched that episode. I'm forgetting the title of the podcast, but the guest was Tracy Ellis Ross. And she had so many tidbits of knowledge in that episode. I watched it over the course of 4 different days. I would just watch 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I'm like, yes, let's let that seep in. Yes, let's let that seep in. It was so inspirational. One of the things that she mentioned in that episode that I think can really apply to today's topic is how she decided to use her particular insecurities to tailor her affirmations for her and for herself, because she recognizes how important the internal mindset is in your capacity to create an external reality for yourself. And so I believe the example she gave was, if you break your leg or you hurt your leg, you can look up leg exercises, leg rehabilitation, Sure, you can do that. You can work out your entire leg, nurse your entire leg back to health. But what you might do otherwise is go to a physical therapist and think, this is my particular injury within my leg. Can you give me tools and exercises for my particular injury within my specific part of my leg that's going to strengthen this particular area of my leg so that I can regain my health? I don't need to work out the entire leg. I just need this particular area of my leg. That is the example that she drew when it comes to finding personal, tailored affirmations in order to flip your current negative frequency spirals and flip them into something that will instead fuel that positive mindset. And so one thing that I can give the example of with myself is that I have a lot of the time operated from a place of lack when it comes to wealth. And we can think of my circumstance change when I was 20 as an example of this. I was always thinking, I can't afford that. I can't spend money on that. How am I going to afford this? How can I ever, afford that? I'm not going to be able to afford that. I have no money. I'm broke. It took me so long to figure out, okay, if I don't want to operate from a state of lacking, maybe I need to flip the script. And how can I tailor this particular insecurity, that particular phrase that remains on repeat in my brain, into I operate from abundance. I make money just for being me. I am deserving of wealth. I attract wealth. I attract abundance. That is my current script. And that is where I have been able to generate more income from. The reality is that action is important. Action is crucial. It's crucial to take your dreams and get the ground running and lean into that behavioral momentum. But we can't have behavioral momentum that is truly aligned with the reality that we want to achieve if we don't first work on our emotional momentum. And I think that's what I forgot in last week's episode, but I'm bringing it to you now. Find your emotional positive momentum and align that with your behavioral momentum, because you can't have one without the other. I think that's all I have for you this week. I hope that you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you listened to last week's episode, what you thought of this one. Don't forget to reach out. It's at kalopsiapod, KALOPSIAPOD on Instagram and TikTok. And it's at SydneyJotita, SYDNEYDJOTITA on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. With that, I will love you and leave you. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next Sunday. Bye.